Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 20 of the Hardly Millennial podcast. Remember, we are young, dumb, and full of
opinions, man.
opinions. And my name is Adam.
I'm Matthew Lynn.
I remembered that time.
You got it, Adam. It took us 20 times. You nailed it, bro.
I nailed it, man. I knew I'd get it eventually.
Dude, we made it to number 20.
We made it to number 20. And what's more exciting is we made it to 57 subscribers.
Holy shit. It just keeps going up, man.
Yeah.
It's been a crazy, 24 hours.
We had, by the way, you have all of you out there who are listening to this are just fucking amazing. Okay. So what was it? We were at, I think, 43 24 hours ago. And you and I were just like, all right, it's time to get to 50.
We just wanted 50.
We just wanted 50.
And then you guys didn't stop.
Yeah.
You just kept going.
And we put out a bunch of posts. You're like, help us out, guys. And people did. And yeah. And it's just
they
kept
sure
going
did.
up.
Man, we can't appreciate it. Or we can't say that we're thank you enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We really appreciate it, guys.
Yeah,
It's phenomenal what you're allowing us to do.
Oh yeah, and you guys really just put us on cloud nine last night. Also, we were pumping out ideas for content left and right last night.
And some ideas were pumped.
Oh, yes.
We got some stuff coming in the future for you guys.
Yeah, guys. First, we'll just let you know, be prepared for another update video in the next couple weeks.
For sure. It's time for some updates.
It's time for some updates.
But for today,
it's
time for a podcast.
It is time for a podcast, and today we are going to be talking about just a few different things under the umbrella of weird and unusual things.
Or interesting. Just the realm of strange, huh?
Yeah, just strange happenings, strange things that people do or say.
Oh, I love it. I'm into it already.
Yeah, and I thought I would start the conversation with something we've actually been kind of touching on the past few podcasts now in regards to the controversy with YouTube and YouTube Kids.
Okay, this is like
videos.
This is like the third day of this.
Yeah,
now.
This is an ongoing
thing. It's a big thing, guys.
It is.
It's a really big deal right now in the community.
Yeah, well, and I figured since we've talked about the past few times, it was only right to, keep people updated with what's going on with that. Sure. This just happened, or at least I just heard about it yesterday. It's almost like something that just came and went, because I've heard almost nothing about it today, but I did a lot of research about it. And for those out there who don't know, there was this video that started to show up on some of the YouTube Kids apps and just YouTube in general called MoMo.
Okay, sounds cute.
And so, yeah, you'd think so. So the video, so when I heard about this, I first heard it from mainstream media, right? So mainstream media was just telling parents, hey, watch out, there's this video with a creepy demon-looking girl thing, and it's telling kids to basically kill themselves or harm themselves in some way, shape, or form, right?
Oh, that's not cute at all.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
So when I heard about this, I just morbid curiosity. I needed to find this video that people were talking about.
Oh my God, Adam, you watched it?
I did watch it. So the video itself wasn't that bad. So the video is just a picture of this, and it does look like a demon-looking girl thing, like big giant eyes, like long, The Ring, that black hair with like this with this like really stretched, almost like Muppet-like smile, right? But it was just a single frame. It was a small single frame, and the rest of the video was covered with black, right? And it was a child singing something like "Momo, Momo," like "Momo's gonna get you," like stuff like that, right? But it got a little
creepy as hell.
It did get a little darker, but nowhere in the actual video did I hear anywhere in the song that was like, "Hey, kill yourself." It was just like Momo's gonna get you, basically, right?
Now, was this video titled something else, or was it titled Momo's gonna kill you?
So I don't know, because the video where I watched the video was like another media site that was like, hey,
look
here's
at
the
this.
video.
I'm sure that if it was to get kids, and they probably labeled it something else.
Oh yeah,
and then you turn
I'm
it on,
sure.
and it's that.
Well, so I was reading up more about it to find out where like some of the stuff was coming from and how it was getting through. And I guess the most recent sighting of this Momo video was during a Pepe the Pig YouTube video, which is like a
Pepe the Pig?
It's just a kid's cartoon, right?
Like a legit kid's
like
cartoon.
a legit
okay,
kid's cartoon.
Okay, gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha.
Like I think it was on Nickelodeon at some point.
So someone clipped Momo into that?
Yes. So it was like as you were watching this, all of a sudden Pepe the Pig would stop, and then this video would come on.
Okay.
And that actually goes back to what we were saying the other day about the story about the man who came on to the video and said, hey, you cut your wrist this way, not this way.
Super fucking creepy.
Well,
dude.
apparently that was also from another video, but it was just spliced into this kids cartoon. So there's nobody making kids cartoons or kids content and saying like, and then going on there and saying this stuff. They're taking kid content that already exists.
And they're splicing into it this malicious content. Yeah,
yes.
well, of course. I figured that's what was going on.
Yeah. So I was reading up more about the Momo thing, and so the picture that you see, I first thought was like photoshopped, right? But it's not Photoshop. It's actually just the picture of the face of a sculptor by this Japanese sculptor. So there's this Japanese artist made this, and the entire sculpture looks like it has that weird demon-like face, and then it's like. But then the context of it is it's like this half bird, half human hybrid. So when you actually see the sculptor all together,
oh, weird.
You're like, oh, that face kind of looks like a bird's face.
So is the legitimate sculpture, is that creepy?
The legitimate sculpture is like a little on the creepy side, but it is just it's a very well-known sculpture amongst this Japanese artist.
They took the picture of that real sculpture, and they made it creepier.
Yes. So they just took a picture of the face, and they made they did that.
Gotcha.
So then I found out that this actually wasn't a recent anomaly. So I guess this was also a video hoax that was going around last July.
Oh, really?
And they found out that, so there were a lot of things about it. Again, it was this, well, let me first say this. So the first thing I thought was weird was when I watched the actual video, like I said, it was a creepy song, but nowhere in the song was it like, hey, go kill yourself, harm yourself,
where are they getting
do
that
whatever.
part from? So
I found out that because it's called the MoMo challenge, right? So that means there has to be some kind of, quote unquote challenge with it.
Right.
So the MoMo challenge is actually, I guess there were these numbers. So MoMo was created through WhatsApp, which is just a third-party text messaging app. And I believe it's owned by Facebook.
Like the picture was created by them, or the story of Momo, or
MoMo came from this
the whole concept.
The whole concept.
Okay, gotcha.
Because
all right, I'm just trying to stay with you here.
Yeah. So the MoMo challenge was like tagged with these different numbers that you could text through WhatsApp, and you would be texting quote unquote Momo.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So then Momo would respond to you, right?
Oh, okay, got it. All right.
So you would go, and Momo would just start sending you. There's actually YouTubers who do this challenge just to see if they get responses from these numbers, what exactly it is. And I was watching a few of those, and a lot of it's just this, oh, I am Momo, but a lot of them also know the person's name. They know like personal information about them. So it has people believing that this Momo hoax is actually just hackers basically trying to get people's information through these apps, right? It's like one of those, the second you text them, well, you've given them the gate to get your information.
That would make sense.
Well, then Momo calls you. So FaceTimes you.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So it's funny. The first YouTuber I watched who did this was like, fuck this shit, and just hung up and, stopped the challenge. Was like, I'm not doing that shit. Another one answered it.
Of course someone answered it, Adam. There's always someone who
answers
the phone.
Of course there is, and
thank God
they did. And this was the creepy part. So there was like the head of Momo, right? And some way, somehow, somebody created this like head of Momo and was able to basically get it to talk. So its mouth was moving, its eyes would like twitch and move and everything. You can tell it's fake, but the point is they're able to get this face to move. Okay. And remember, this was something for kids, right? This was something they're trying to get kids to do. So, and this thing that you're FaceTiming is definitely telling you to like kill yourself, or the specific one that I saw was, it would say in this like creepy voice, like, put the knife up to your neck and push. Put the knife up to your neck and push.
That is insane.
Yeah,
Adam. That's
dude.
Totally crazy.
Creepy as fuck, dude. And the conversation would always start with this person giving information about them to be like, hey, I know who you are. Like the first girl I watched was literally like, is this really MoMo? And the person wrote back and was like, is this really Gina, whatever her last name was? And then just started listing off this personal information about her.
See, that's interesting because the first thing, like, I, as an adult, I try to dissect it logically.
Right.
Right. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, someone got some, amateur AI program that can take the information from your cell phone, your name, your address, stuff like that, whatever you have in your cell phone, and can write sentences with it.
Right.
But it's actually like descriptively answering the particular questions.
Yeah.
So that makes me think that it's like a person who's doing it, right?
And I think it is.
Which totally could be. But if it's this big challenge that went viral, there would be like thousands of people doing it.
Right.
So how the fuck is 1 or even 10 people keeping up with all those messages?
Well, here's what I think happened. So I do remember when this girl was trying to find the challenge, and find these numbers that you can contact. There were several different sites with several different numbers posted saying this is the number you contact for the MoMo challenge, this, and the other
so there
thing.
must have been a thing like, so you can be a participant. You can like be MoMo or something.
Maybe. So she actually text messaged a couple of them first. And on the WhatsApp, it'll have little check marks next to the text message that you sent. And if those text messages turn blue, it means that the person on the other end has at least opened your messaging.
I fucking hate
thing,
that.
right?
Google does that shit too. It's terrible.
Yeah, so WhatsApp also does it.
Oh, I hate that.
And so there were a couple that she went to and was like, hi, is this MoMo? Nothing. No response, no blue check mark, no nothing. Then there was other ones that she went to where she would write and the blue check marks would show up, but no response, no nothing. So it wasn't until her like 4th or 5th number that she tried where she got through and somebody was responding. So what I think actually ended up happening is probably at first when this happened, when somebody got this bright idea to do this, it was just one person, there was one number out there, and I'm sure you had other trolls who were like, well, I could fucking do that. In fact, I could take it one step further.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm a fucking FaceTime people. And then that happens, right? And then somebody else is like, well, I can do that too.
Do we know of any cases where someone took it a little too far and actually like kidnapped someone? Or has anyone actually been harmed?
So that's where kind of this hoax kind of lies, because last July, I guess it was more prominent because at first, like, I believe, I could be wrong about this, but I believe this was like the first case where Momo speaks English. So
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Is Momo bilingual?
Well, last year, these messages would come through, but it was either in Spanish or Portuguese. So
Interesting. I thought for sure you were going to say like Japanese.
no, so it was actually, there were cases in Argentina and Portugal where this Momo thing was becoming this viral challenge that people were doing. And there were cases of young kids, anywhere 13 and younger, killing themselves. And there were articles that said, that correlated their suicide with the Momo challenge, but there hasn't actually been any evidence supported to say that's why they did it, right?
Dude, that's terrible.
But because it happened around the same time, there were these articles that came out and said, oh, it's absolutely, like, causing it.
You know what the whole thing, this whole Momo thing reminds me of? Is the last thing like this I can remember was a thing called Slenderman.
I love Slenderman.
You've heard of that?
Oh,
okay.
I love Slenderman.
So listen, he was a little bit after my time. I was a little bit older when the Slenderman thing got big, okay? But I was like old enough to read the news and stuff, and it got to a point where it got into the news because there was actually some deaths involved.
Well,
with
one
Slenderman.
specifically, but yeah.
One specifically. So you probably know a little bit more about the whole story than I do.
Oh, I followed it really
What was
closely.
that all about?
So the whole thing's, and just to let people know who Slenderman is, Slenderman started as it actually started as a contest to see if people, it was a Photoshop contest of, couldn't you take the old photos and put some like ghost or something in there, right? Doctor the photos to make it look like there's a ghost or something, right?
Okay.
So somebody I don't know if they won the contest, but these pictures of, the alleged Slenderman. Remember the old, like, black and white photos?
Oh, yeah.
And you would see,
Yeah,
so
like
they're famous.
he was like this really elongated, shadowy black figure.
He's a tall man, like 12 feet tall, no face, and always wears a suit, right?
Always wears a
But
suit.
he has the ability to create, like, branches from his body.
He can kind of, like, turn into a tree, which is weird.
Yeah.
I'm not sure well, because he's a foresty thing.
Or
You
it's
go
almost
in the
like,
forest to talk to
it's
him.
like he can blend in with the trees is what it is.
And the whole point is he comes and he kills. He's like the boogeyman.
Yeah.
He's the boogeyman for Generation Z.
Specifically kids.
Specifically,
too,
well,
his
I mean,
thing.
so is the boogeyman. Okay, but anyway, go on. So where did he come from?
So so he came from these doctored photos, and then do you remember the creepypasta? Did you ever listen to creepypasta?
Creepypasta.
Yeah, so it's this site that literally, and they were a YouTube channel for a little bit, and they literally they shared basically ghost and monster stories.
That sounds like fun.
And they always had a really good narrator narrating them, and you could just sit there and listen to them and freak yourself out.
But they never like took it too far or anything. It was just good fun.
No, good fun.
Okay, all right, gotcha.
So
okay, sounds great.
Yeah, it was all very obviously fake, and it turned into they made short films about some of their stuff and things like that. But it became these photos turned into these stories that kept coming up, and then somebody took one of these stories and put it on creepypasta. And then it just blew up from there.
So So Slenderman came from creepypasta.
Yes, essentially.
Gotcha.
Or
That's like the forum that he was created on.
Specifically, he's like one of the first like urban mythos to be generated from like the internet.
Is he Western? Is he from America, or was he created in like Japan or something?
I guess it just depends who made these photos, but I don't think anybody really knows.
So he's not specifically from any culture.
But I would say if you had to give him culture, it'd be America, because I think that's where he generated, or popularity wise.
So Slenderman got big, the story of him, and it started to become like a fan fiction sort of thing, right? People started to kind of create the story of him.
Yeah, exactly. One specifically there was a YouTuber called. I can't remember the name. I know the word Hornet was in their name.
Maybe better not to call anyone out.
Yeah, well, they were good. I really enjoyed them.
Oh, okay.
So what they did was they kind of created this. Oh, Marble Hornet is what it was called.
Hornet. Shout out, brother.
So they created these series of videos and played them off like they were real, of a teenager who is slowly being affected by Slenderman and kind of documenting his experiences and just like his slow fall into madness, right?
But it was fake.
It was very fake.
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
But again, just launched the popularity of Slenderman again. So Slenderman is, of course, we've talked about, you just said, the modern day boogeyman, comes, takes, doesn't kill kids, specifically kidnaps kids, right?
Kidnaps. Oh, that's great.
And, but there was this case that happened back in, I want to say 2012 or 2013, where this young girl, I believe she was 11 or 12 at the time, and her and her friend stabbed a third friend.
In the forest. They brought her into the forest and did it.
It was in a bathroom.
It was in a bathroom? I thought it was in the forest.
No.
Maybe I'm thinking of another case.
Maybe you are.
There was definitely a forest case that had to do with Slenderman.
But I do know.
Okay, but this one was a bathroom.
This particular case was a bathroom. So the whole story was this girl had this best friend, right? Who in the best friend just kind of trailed along with her, right? She wasn't like the alpha of the two.
She was the reacher.
She was, yeah.
Okay, that's okay. It's okay to be that.
And so she basically coerced her into the situation where it was them two and then another young friend, and they were like at a park, and it was one of those bathrooms, like those public bathrooms at the parks.
Oh, gotcha.
And so they go in there, and then the one girl stabbed her. I think both of them altogether stabbed this person like 24 times, this young girl.
Jeez, my God, that's crazy.
And the controversy around it was when obviously they were confronted about this murder. The girl said that Slenderman
told her to do it.
Yeah. They said Slenderman came to her and told her to do it.
Do you know what happened? Did she get away with it?
Yeah.
No way.
She didn't get away with it. They both went to jail.
All right, okay, sure.
However, they made a documentary actually about these two girls that just came out last year. Yeah. Oh. And what's interesting is, so the girl who was like the mastermind of it all, right?
The fucking ringleader?
Yeah. She was actually schizophrenic.
Oh no.
But she was so young to where it was just one of those things that, the parents could tell that there was, maybe
It's just
something
an act
going
of
on.
imagination.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
But,
But then when she was in custody, they did more and found out that she really was schizophrenic.
Yeah. So she did see Slenderman.
Oh no, Slenderman really did make her do it?
Slenderman just,
Oh,
was just
fuck,
her mind.
dude. That's really creepy and weird.
Yeah, there are a lot of those creepy things out there, dude.
Did we have a boogeyman when we were growing up? Was there?
I don't think so.
You know where I think a lot of these really crazy ones are coming from? You know where I think it stems from?
Where?
Saw. So ever since the Saw movies came out, okay, because Saw was like Saw and Hostel. But Hostel's a little bit more obscure. Not a lot of people have seen that one.
Right.
Saw is very, very mainstream.
Right.
Okay, but they're both the same kind of movie. They're like, there was this weird phenomenon like 8 or 12 years ago that was like these torture movies where people were really fascinated with all the different ways that you could fucking torture someone to death.
Yeah, or in the case of Saw, how much you could torture yourself.
Right. Oh, that was even more fascinating. 'Cause you had to do it, and sometimes they got away.
Yeah.
And we all, as a society, for a few years, like decided we're not going to judge each other for this. It's just cool to watch this.
Right.
And we're just going to kind of like get our rocks off on all this crazy torture.
Right.
And ever since then, that I can realize, now you have these really weird, demonic, like kill yourself things going on.
Yeah.
You have these Slendermans and these now this MoMo thing. And
Yeah.
I think it stems back to the Saw, and particularly the little Saw doll. Like
Right.
a cutesy figure telling you to do horrible things is very chic right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, and to go off of more of what you were saying about the things that we were just into or that was coming to be when we were younger, because like things like Saw specifically, the reason why I think Saw had such an influence is because when our parents were growing up, they had Jason, Mike Myers, Freddy, right? All of these,
Sure.
main
The
ones.
kings.
Right. So eventually, though, you're going to have new kings. So, and I think
Yeah,
Saw
but
was
Saw
kind
is no
of
longer
the...
a horror movie. There's no anticipation. There's no
Oh, you're right.
jumping out of your seat. It's literal just, it scratches that itch. It's something that's terrible that you're never allowed to look at, but for this 2 hours you can indulge in it.
Well, Saw did the same thing that I would argue that even the King of Horrors did at first. You can go back and watch, the first Nightmare, and they were all scary movies, but then they kind of became just slasher flicks.
The first Saw movie where they're in the bathroom
Is a horror
and they're
movie.
that was an excellent, actually really mind-boggling movie.
Yes.
That was fantastically done, and I think that's what led the doors to all the other Saws.
Oh, absolutely.
I think the other Saws were an afterthought and kind of came up as money grabbers.
Right.
And then they got away with it once, and they're like, oh fuck, we can just torture people for 2 hours.
Right.
It's like porn and torture are the two things that the brain is super curious about, dude.
Yeah.
So, but the first one, you're right. The first one was a really thrilling, interesting horror movie.
Yeah.
The only real, terrible, disgusting part is when he, sawed his arm off or whatever, his foot or whatever. That's been done in lots of movies.
Yeah.
So I agree. The first one came out that way, but then it totally went into left field of becoming, horrible.
But that's what I'm saying. I could make that same argument with the Halloween movies, the Nightmare on Elm Street
You think
movies.
for our parents they thought that way about those?
Well, I think even if you go back and watch them now, if you go back and watch the first Friday the 13th movie, that was a legit horror movie.
And then it was just kind of hack and slash
and then,
after that.
Yeah, after that, hack and slash, exactly. And I think Saw was the same thing. It's just the one of our generation. They had Jason and and Mike Myers and stuff. We got Jigsaw. That's what we got.
I don't know. I just feel like Jigsaw, particularly that character, the little puppet guy, paved the way for, have you heard of the game Five Nights at Freddy's?
Oh, yes. I remember those.
So, again, it's a cutesy, toy shop, stuffed bear guy who comes and he kills you. He tortures you to death and stabs you and shit. And you're in, I guess the whole premise of the first games, I never played them, but I guess you had security cameras. You were a guy
you were in
watching
one
security
room.
cameras, and the toys would come alive to come and fucking kill you, and you had to escape the toys. Right? It was
Right.
this horror thing.
Yes.
So again, it's a little cutesy figure who is turned into something terrible.
Right.
And I don't know. It just reminds me of Jigsaw.
No, I mean, you are right. I mean, when you really think about it, because even when you go back farther, and I don't know if you ever remember this, but do you remember a little internet show called Happy Tree Friends?
Happy Tree. No.
Okay. So this was something
I
that
didn't get out much as a kid.
So this was a very inside thing. so this was something that was showed to me when I was, I want to say 12 or 13. Super young.
Were you too young to see this? Whatever it is. That's yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is it?
So it looks like from the outside a cutesy cartoon. There's this cutesy little yellow bunny named Happy the Bunny, and there's like a beaver. Like there's like actual characters in
Sounds
this, right?
lovely so far.
So when I had a friend who showed me Happy Tree Friends in one of these little 5-minute episodes of Happy Tree Friends, first initial thought, why the fuck are you showing me a cartoon? Yeah. But their market was to look like a cutesy cartoon and just be filled with blood and gore that these cartoon characters get themselves into because of them being cute. See what I mean?
I got you.
So
very like Robot Chicken-esque.
Oh,
very like
much gorier.
Oh, more gorier than that.
So much blood, Matthew. Cartoon blood. And it wasn't like they went out of their way to try to make the cartoons like turn from cute to disturbing. They were still cute. They're just killing each other or getting themselves. So one particular one that I remember off the top of my head was there was this blue moose, and this blue moose went to like chop down a tree or something.
Oh, it's not good already.
And the tree fell on his foot.
Oh, that's okay.
Right?
Not what I thought was going to happen.
So the moose can't move the fucking tree. He can't fucking get away. He's calling for help. Nobody's able to help him. And all he has, for some reason, is a fucking spoon, Matthew.
A spoon?
A
He doesn't have the axe he just chopped the tree down with?
Well, I guess it's out of his reach or something. I remember him
fuck.
using a spoon for this particular incident.
He's got a spoon.
And
this doesn't sound like it's going to go well.
No. So, and it's literally, he just starts hacking away at his foot with this spoon to try to get himself free from this tree.
It sounds terrible, Adam.
It is horrible. It was a fucking horrible thing to watch.
So where did this come from?
And
this was a show you could go online and watch?
Yeah, it was happytreefriends.com.
Oh, it was a website.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, back before YouTube, you had to go to websites.
They had a theme song. You could go to, dude, and they were a thing. If you went, I remember Hot Topic for a while. You could go to Hot Topic and they'd sell shirts with like Happy the Bunny on them or something like that.
And this is when we were kids.
This is when we were kids, yes.
So that kind of would be one of the first instances of bringing children into not even horror, just being grotesque.
Yeah, well, and that's why it was interesting what you said, because I never really thought about the correlation. But yeah, if you look at a lot of, in our generation, what's considered, scary or these, new kings of horror, so to speak.
Our parents never did. The only thing they really had that even got close to kids and death was Chucky.
Yes.
Right, they had Chucky, who was a doll who came to life again. But he killed adults.
Right.
Chucky didn't really take out too many kids.
Right.
Okay. It wasn't until, I guess it was our generation, who first came up with, let's start taking out kids. And then the Zers were like, we're going to roll with this shit.
Well, and the creepiest thing about that is the movies aren't even, like, the Slenderman's not even killing kids, right? He's just kidnapping kids, right?
Oh, sure. I guess it's slightly better.
But my point is, though, all of the, like, Jigsaw is not killing kids, right? Jigsaw was killing adults. The creepiest thing about this is these horror things that are being created now are literally targeted at communicating with children to get them to hurt or kill themselves. That's the weirdest part about it.
I don't understand where the incentive comes from. The person creating that, like, I don't know. I guess nobody understands it. They're obviously sick in the head.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Mentally disturbed.
But there's always been the boogeyman, dude. But it really got taken to the next level.
Well, I think you have people out there who are just that they're mentally disturbed. Something happened to them as kids. It's like what they say about like people who grow up and end up like molesting children. Usually they were molested when they were a kid, right? That's usually a commonality amongst people who do that.
Yes.
So it's the same thing with people who are doing disturbing things like this. Something somewhat along the same lines happened to them when they were a kid, but we just now have the means. They have the means now to communicate that, disdain in a different way.
I think that is true. And what helps those people to really target kids and get their, this terrible message across is that we inherently have this weird curiosity with anything that's like morbid. Like the brain is super duper interested in sex, and it's super duper interested in death and all the different ways death can happen. And because nobody dies, like really, really dies, done, and then comes back and tells us about it.
Right.
So it's this mystery, right? It's this great mystery of death. And you're not allowed to execute the action of death. You're not allowed to kill people. You know what I mean? That's not allowed. So actually, I've seen like TED Talks and read things about your brain kind of earns for what it doesn't do. So if you are a person who's single for like years and years and years, you'll start to actually want to watch like romantic movies, because when you see the people like kissing and stuff on screen, when your brain watches two people kissing, it literally gets the sensation as if you are kissing someone.
Right.
Obviously, your lips don't, your skin doesn't, but the same receptors go off in your brain as if you're doing it. Same thing if you're a couch potato, you'll love action movies. Because when you're watching the bullets flying and the people in the war,
it gives you the adrenaline you need.
Your brain is going off and firing as if you're doing that.
Right.
So we're not allowed to partake in death, but we can watch it. You know what I mean? And it tickles our brain. It scratches that itch. Particularly children who are curious and trying to figure out, they want answers to everything.
Right.
And death is one thing that adults can't answer very well.
Yeah.
So they're super interested. They're also super interested in like God too. Because adults can't explain it. You know what I mean? Anything adults can't explain, they get really fascinated in. So it's easy to target them with this kind of imagery and videos, because they're already biologically, they're built to be fascinated by that stuff.
Right. So just that, they're an easy target.
Oh yeah.
And I think a reason why we're so fascinated with not even something as far on the scale as like torture or death, but even just like you were mentioning action movies, is I think we as a human species too, and we've just seen this in our history, and even now, we are essentially a violent species, and I believe in a time in which that we were doing more. I don't know. I think just as you said, it's an itch to scratch. Everybody they can't participate in some of these like outlandish things or whatnot, whether they think about it or not. But they can watch a movie and see something else. It's why maybe there's some people who are more obsessed with horror movies than other people are.
I think every single person is curious about torture and death, but I think the vast majority of us choose to not go down that road.
Well, of course.
We consciously make the choice to not watch that imagery. But I think the people who do choose to watch it, who break that choice, who say, I'm just going to watch it once.
Right.
I really think there's a strong desensitizing that goes on in your brain with death. I think your brain is very good at coping with death when it's presented to it.
Right.
You hear stories of people who are in plane crashes, and in those last 30 seconds, almost everyone will tell you death is not scary. When it actually gets presented to you, you start to think about your life. Shit slows down. Like biologically, your brain is built to be very cool with death.
Right.
So that's part of the reason why I think it's so fascinating to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is that it's already built in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's just we're just fascinated with the unknown. And I think when it just comes down, I mean, just with death, even with things like torture and stuff like that, that's all still the unknown, right? So it's people are weird. If there's any weird and unusual things, it all comes back to people, doesn't it?
I definitely think that we all have those thoughts, though. A lot of us choose to not, partake in it.
Oh yeah, I think that's natural. I think it's just almost a coping maybe coping's not the right word, but just a way to.
It's naughty. Anything that's naughty, people like to do.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to do that, so I want to try it. Not that you want to try torturing something, but
right.
The more naughty something is, the more it's like a train wreck.
Right.
You know it's bad, but you gotta watch it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true. I don't know. I'm curious to see what new monsters and stuff that we come up with later. With the internet too, though, kind of segueing into this story I read about a year ago that I wanted to mention because I thought it was super interesting, and it's probably the most compelling, and I use that word lightly, video and story that I've heard about this, and it's time travel, about somebody who actually claimed that they time traveled.
Oh, you're kidding.
Now, so what made this...
Oh my God, enlighten me, Adam.
Yeah. So the story is very far-fetched, of course.
You're kidding.
This
No,
is
it's not.
why this is why I said the word compelling. I use it lightly. So this guy
Let's hear him out, folks. Give him a chance. Give him a chance.
So this guy claimed that he was fixing a pipe under his sink, right? So the cupboards under the sink,
Oh my God, like some Narnia shit. Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
some
Go ahead.
fucking Narnia shit.
Oh no.
And so he was down there. Somehow some fucking wormhole or something opened up. And he found himself in the future. And he was talking, he met and was talking with his older self.
Was he under the sink in the future?
Yeah, he crawled out of,
Under the sink.
Under the sink.
He went into a wormhole,
Yes.
came out, was in the future.
Yes.
I love it. Okay,
Yes.
what did he do?
So, and he said he met himself from the future, and so this was he had some fucking, it was older phones, right? So he had some blurry video of him with some guy, right?
Okay.
But then one thing they were showing was the guy had tattoos on his arm. And the older guy that this guy was with that he claimed was, his future self.
Right.
They both held out their arms together and they all had the same tattoos in the same places.
Okay.
Now, could that be just two fucking guys who got tattoos or fake tattoos or whatnot? Of course. But
There's no way that that's stencils and spray paint. There's no way that they made two stencils and spray painted the same part of their arm.
But that was just one of the weirder instances I've heard.
How the fuck is that compelling? Where's the compelling part, Adam?
What was the tattoo part?
The tattoo was the compelling part?
Sure.
Really? It was?
Sure. If you open for
I
interpretation.
had so much higher expectations of that. Just knowing
what the
you
fuck
personally.
were you expecting from a time traveling story?
I don't know. Shame on me, I guess.
Yeah.
When you're listening to your friend who's telling you, I have a compelling story about time travel. And then he goes, I know, it's a little weird, but it made me think.
I just told you I used the
I
word
think
compelling
more of
lightly.
you.
I just
Very
told
lightly,
you.
apparently.
Very lightly was the word I fucking used. Were we not listening to that part?
Jesus. There was nothing compelling about that story at all.
It was just a fucking story. The topic today is weird and unusual happenings. That just happens to be one I fucking read about. What's yours? Go for it. Let's hear the story.
Jesus, it's not a competition, Adam.
Jesus, Matthew. Just fucking enjoy the fucking story.
Okay, I'm sorry. Shame on me.
Jesus.
You're right.
Go for it. What we got?
Do you think that guy legitimately thought that he went into the future? Do you think in his brain he really believed he went to the future?
No.
No.
Not at all.
No.
I think when he was telling this story, he just
Do you think halfway through the story he's like, fuck, abandoned ship, but he couldn't, he went too far. He's like, now I have to tell everyone.
Yeah. So what I think happened was I think this guy posted some video telling some bullshit story, right? And maybe he even meant it to be bullshit, right? But somebody took it seriously.
Oh, no.
And then he had to, so then all of a sudden he's like, oh, well, now this person wants to talk to me. Okay. Oh, now this person wants to pay me to talk to me, right?
And then he like got addicted to it. He got his 15 minutes.
Yeah.
He couldn't give it up.
Exactly. And I think,
Interesting.
dude, there's a lot of stories. Have you seen that picture that goes around? It's like an old picture of like the Titanic, right? And it was like people about to board the Titanic or something. And if
So
you
it was
look,
still floating?
yeah, it was still floating.
Okay.
So, and if you look amongst the crowd, there's a gentleman standing there that has a haircut, like a very modern day haircut, right? And he's wearing like like it looks like he's wearing like Ray-Bans or some shit, right?
Okay.
And he's like wearing just like a black t-shirt, like looks like he's just totally out of place, right? But like that's one of those pictures that always floats around and people are like, oh, see, here's the time travel.
You know what that just made me think of? Okay, so do you think people like 200 years from now are going to look back at pictures and see like Lady Gaga and they're going to be like, holy fucking shit, it's a time traveler. She's a fucking alien. Look at her dress. Look at how she dresses. And then they're going to find like old DVDs of like the Hunger Games.
Right.
And they're going to be like, holy shit, people used to dress like this and look all crazy makeup
So
like this.
I've had these conversations before, and the funniest fucking thing that I could see happening is there being some group that practices a Harry Potter religion, right?
Right.
Like,
oh, God.
Like all of a sudden somebody thousands of years down the
They
line
rebuild the
are
great,
going to
school.
Yes, they're going to find these fucking Harry Potter books. They're going to read them. And they're going to think this is fucking like religious doctrine, and Dumbledore's gonna be fucking God, and Voldemort's gonna be the devil. Oh yeah, they're gonna find sticks and say, "We believe this was Harry's wand. We found it in what used to be Britain."
Maybe. I mean, think of all the wrong
knows?
shit we think of now. That's funny. That's really funny. So, totally left field, but we're talking about odd things today. So,
Right.
What's your opinion? It's interesting. I'm kind of on the fence about this one here. I don't know how I feel.
Okay.
What do you think about psychics?
Okay.
So, and let me specify. I'm not talking about speaking with the dead.
Okay.
At all. I'm 0% that. I'm talking about reading the future and or reading your mind.
Okay.
Okay.
So, in regards to like, at least I personally don't know or have heard of any cases as far as the like reading the mind or predicting the future thing. Although, I mean, you can bring up Nostradamus, and I'm sure there's people now. Well, he was he always wrote about things from the future. He's supposed to be the one who predicted 9/11 and stuff.
Okay.
You know, like predicted helicopters and shit, awarded it differently, just shit like that. Which I don't know how much I believe in that stuff. I think that's all just
maybe he
open.
just talked in fortune cookie talk all the time.
Well, and that's
so
what
it's
it
easy
is.
to interpret it for anything.
Well, like one of the things, not to get too far off track, but I know one of the things about Nostradamus was he apparently like predicted helicopters, but the way he described helicopters was these giant like metal birds with like 4 wings, you know. So then people read that and interpret it as
fill in the blanks,
helicopters, you
Right.
know. As far as like today, people who can read minds and or tell the future, I'm not so sure about that stuff, but I do know there are cases and even video recorded cases of super psychics is what they call them in China.
Super
keep
psychics?
that, yeah.
Or super sidekicks?
Super psychics.
Super psychics.
Yes.
Like, I can read your mind. Super read your minders.
Yes, but they don't refer to it as reading mind. It's more cases of like telekinetic kind of stuff.
Oh, brain power.
Brain power kind of stuff. But they call them, China pegged the term, and they call them super psychics.
I could believe some of that. Some of those monks and shit, dude.
Yeah, well, there was one video I saw that was this news crew, and the news crew was from somewhere in East Asia, right? So nobody's speaking English. But they're apparently talking to this monk who I guess didn't, at least at the time, didn't look like he practiced anymore, but just, you know, at least years ago did practice under them. And there were talks about this shaman being able to do, you know, like unreal things, like out of this world things. But one of the things with, if you're part of these monk societies, you can't show it to anybody. Nobody, if you do, nobody can videotape it. Like, they're very secretive about that stuff, right?
Okay.
So, but this particular video was like this.
He was like, "Fuck him! I'm gonna show you anyway."
Yeah.
Nice. All right.
And I believe they met up with him again, and he actually had to like stop because the people, his like master or whatnot, was like, "You have to come back and practice more. You've obviously lost your way." But I'll get into that in a
She's like,
second.
"You got me in trouble."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So this particular guy, he was showing things, and they had this on camera where like he went up to like one of the newswomen that was there and like put his hand up against her stomach and just held it there. His hand shook a little bit, and dude, it looked like somebody just like punched this girl in the stomach. You know, she didn't like writhe back into pain.
No, I understand. But there was a red spot there, like
no,
without
not a
touching
red
her.
spot. Like her stomach indented.
Oh shit!
Like it looked like
he actually pushed,
an invisible
like, something.
hand went, pushed on the
wow.
stomach and pushed back.
I totally believe it.
And then he did something where they took up a wadded piece of newspaper and they put it on the ground, and the guy put his hand just like a couple inches above this newspaper, and his hand started to shake, and this thing started to catch on fire.
Damn.
Just like slowly and gradually. Now, there was another case, and those were, I think, the two things that happened in that video. Now, then there was a case of much better, like, high-definition footage. I think it was even something that was on Netflix at one point, where they went to go, these people that were just doing that. I think they were doing a documentary on just weird and unusual things, and they came across this shaman and asked if he could do some things for him. And I can't remember exactly what it was he was doing, but I remember it was shit like you've never even seen a magician do this shit.
Right.
You know, like just out of this world kind of stuff. And then you saw that, and then they were basically like a day went by, and the people who were doing the documentary said we wanted to meet with him again, but he said that his master from this monk monastery or wherever he trained said like you've lost your way, like you've broken the rules, basically.
Yeah.
You have to come
Fucking
back.
punished.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so they couldn't see him again.
Dude, I totally believe it. So I'll tell you what. My philosophy with psychics and mind reading and stuff is I think that our brains, so our whole body has electricity in them, right?
Right.
And the way that a computer works is that it transfers information through electricity. Okay,
Right.
electricity goes through wires, and in that electricity are the files and is the information.
Right.
And at the end of the wire, you can read it on a screen.
Right.
Right. So we know that information can be moved as energy. Now we know that you can do that without wires.
Right.
We know that you can do Wi-Fi. Right. You could hook up. You can do Bluetooth, and you can send information wirelessly.
Right.
So I literally believe in the Force. Okay. Not Yoda and lightsabers and shit, but I literally believe that the air around us is more of like a fluid. It's more of like a jelly, if you will. Like there's actually consistency to it enough that those waves can transfer from person to person. And I think that your brain can pick up electricity from other people. In that electricity, you can actually get information.
I think we've actually proven that is an actual thing.
Well, I don't know if we've proven down to like having the same thought.
Well, not down to having the same thought, no. But we do
believe
know that
that's
frequencies can go back
I believe in like collective consciousness. I
Right.
think that's what that is. So when you're sitting on the couch and you go out of the blue, like, man, I haven't had apple pie in a long time. You know, we never fucking talk about apple pie. And you go, dude, I was just remembering my grandma's apple pie. Like, that's so... And that happens to all of us pretty often, right? Oh, what a coincidence, right?
Right.
So there's two theories. There's collective consciousness, mine, that we're actually communicating with electricity with each other. And then there's also a theory that is... how do I explain it well? So certain objects... and certain things that will happen in the room around us will set off the same memory for both those people. So maybe a Fuji Apple commercial came on TV and we didn't even recognize it, but we both heard it in the background as we're on our phones. So now both of our brains heard Fuji Apple. You start to think of your grandma. I start to think of apple pie. one of us said something, and all of a sudden it's collective consciousness.
Right.
So those are the two theories. I think that the latter, like the Apple theory, that does happen sometimes. But I think most of the time, we literally can communicate with each other with the electricity.
Well, we actually there's some correlative evidence that exists out there that says that collective consciousness is a real thing. And I believe they first saw this with a breed of monkey or chimpanzee, one of those. But it was just this thing where like these group of chimpanzees for years didn't know how to do something. There was something they just didn't know how to do, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, these scientists on this side of the world were observing them and all of a sudden saw, oh, they figured it out. And then all of a sudden, not too long later, we're doing the same stuff.
Bro,
and
that's
then
a
before
real
you knew
thing,
it,
though.
yeah.
So there's actually a theory, and this is why they say that in South America you find pyramids, and in the Middle East you find pyramids. And those two sections were never touching each other anywhere near the times when they were building pyramids.
Right.
So how the fuck did they both get the idea to do that? There's actually a theory that after a certain number, a certain percentage of a species figures something out, there's a great enlightenment. The whole species will all of a sudden, not in one day, but will all of a sudden, in a very short period of time, figure it out as well. So there was a case of birds, and I believe it was in England. And I want to get this right. So it had something to do with the milkman. So the milkman would bring the milk bottles to your doorway every day, right? And whatever the tops of the milk was made out of, the birds figured out that they could peck through it and get to the milk, right, and drink the milk. So they changed the tops of the milk containers to something else that the birds couldn't get through as easily. And they found that after a while, in one neighborhood, there was some birds who figured out they could peel it off. Instead of pecking through it, they could peel it.
Right.
And before long, within like 6 months, an epidemic again all over the whole Isle of Britain. These birds were getting into the milk again. And so there really is a sound theory that like it only takes so much, and then there's this great enlightenment. The whole species gets it.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat.
Oh, it's very neat. So what are just because I was trying to think of specific cases, can you think of any specific cases where that's happened to like the human species and we've actually been able to like something very definite where it's happened, like
where we can totally prove it? Well, I think one of the best ones is the pyramids, right? It's certainly you can't like definitively prove it, but it fills a lot of the blanks,
right?
You know what I mean?
I guess I was referring to something more like contemporary, more modern, where maybe that's happened.
Well, you'd have to go back far in time. It'd have to be something that came to be back in time, when communication was harder. Because now, if anything like that happens now, everyone's going to blame it on communication.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's hard to say that that's the case anymore.
Right.
But I don't know, because then there's also the argument, okay, that did you know that when the first travelers came to America, that the Native Americans hadn't invented the wheel yet. All they had was fire.
I've heard that, but
they hadn't invented the wheel. They hadn't come up with the concept of farming. That, like, no one's dissing anyone. You know, they were living happy life. They were living their best life. It was great. But
well, didn't they teach the settlers how to farm? Wasn't that like the thing the Native Americans contributed?
So I don't think that the Native Americans were ever known to
like
stop
cultivate
and stay somewhere and like farm the same place year after year. I think they were they always moved around.
Okay.
I don't know of any great Northern America Native American cities.
Right.
I think they all traveled around a lot. They might have stopped and grew some vegetables or whatever, but they never hung out there. So if it was the case that you had these great enlightenments, then why did that part of the world never get the wheel? You know what I mean? Or was it the case that they just got wiped out so many times that they forgot about it every time? You know, they restart so much, or who knows? So that kind of disproves the argument a little bit too.
Right.
So
I guess. Well, and I guess at this point too, it will be hard to tell because, like you said, with the internet and social media now,
you blame it on that.
You have an idea or you know how to do something. You just go, "Hey, everybody, check out what I'm doing here."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, nowadays communication's super easy. It didn't used to be that easy.
No,
it used to take days and days to get a message somewhere.
Right. My, how far we have come.
How far we've come.
Well, we are about at our hour now.
Oh, man. We filled a whole hour with strange things?
We filled the whole hour. Again, didn't even get to all the topics.
Oh, we never do. We never do we?
We were going to get to taboos, but we'll save that for later.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a separate podcast on taboos.
I guess there are a lot of taboos out there. You definitely could do a whole podcast on it.
I'll tell you what. If anyone listens to this, if you guys drop a little comment down below, nothing fancy, just write the word taboos or write the word yes. And if 2 or 3 of you do that, our next podcast will make it about taboos. Yeah. How about that?
There you go. I like that. Just drop a comment and also like and subscribe while you're at it.
You do that too. You guys are doing that anyway, man. You guys are doing that fucking anyway. Rock.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. We always appreciate all of our listeners and we love you all. Again, thank you for all of the new subscribers who may be checking this out. We really appreciate you subscribing. We're at 57 now. Hope maybe we went up a few while we were podcasting. I don't know.
Oh, maybe. Who knows?
But remember, guys, you can find us on all the social media platforms, mainly YouTube. We also have a Facebook and an Instagram. We also have a Twitter. Still figuring out Twitter, but we have it.
It's work in progress.
Yeah, it's work in progress. And remember, guys, we do still have a GoFundMe page, www.gofundme.com/HardlyMillennial. Go check it out. Put some money in the jar. All donations are appreciated. If this is your first time listening, just so you know, none of the money goes to Matthew or Idol. It goes back into Hardly Millennial. And any final thoughts, Matthew?
I just want to leave you all with a little math equation because everyone loves to be left with those.
There you go.
So here's how it goes. It goes me plus you guys, the viewers, minus Adam, equals happiness. AKA, I love you guys.
Leave your answers down below.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.